elf ears on just because I'm talking about YA fantasies. I look ridiculous. I mean, I already have it, so let's go with it. Let's go. You know what's very ironic is I'm not even gonna talk about one Fae book and I have elf ears. Hello wonderful people, how are you guys doing today? I hope you guys are doing amazing! My name is Bianca, you can call me B, and welcome back to Books with B! So the reason why I have elf ears on is because I just wanted to. I wanted to feel the vibe of YA fantasies, so now I have them on. Okay, so today, for some random reason, I just wanted to talk about my favorite YA fantasies. I also have one YA sci-fi series here. I just wanted to put it in because it's one of my favorite YA series of all time. I think you might know what it is. YA fantasies are just one of my favorite genres. I don't care what other people say that it's for kids. For me, young adult just makes me want to, live a magical life. Sometimes when you read young adult, it's easy. Unlike when you read adult fantasy, it's just too many world building, too many characters. The magic system is just a little dense, but if I just want to relax in a magical world, I go to YA, and I don't care what other people say. I love YA. So here are some of my favorite YA fantasy series that I want to talk about. Let's get started. I want to start off with a whole world. So I want to start off to talk about the Grishaverse. If you don't know, the Grishaverse is a world created by Leigh Bardugo. It has 3 series in all of its total. So, let's start with the first one. So, Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. Not my favorite series, however, it did start the whole Grishaverse, and I love the Grishaverse with all my heart. So, with Shadow and Bone, you're probably very familiar with this. It does have a Netflix adaptation, which I actually prefer more than these books. I'm sorry. I actually read these books because of the Netflix adaptation. I wanted to know what it's about, what's the hype about, and I didn't get the hype. At first, when I first read them, I actually listened to the audiobook. I didn't have the physical copies at the time, and it wasn't my favorite, but it did start a universe that I love. So let's talk about Shadow and Bone. So we follow Alina Starkov. She is a soldier where her regiment has to cross the fold, which is just a wall of supernatural darkness, and there's like monsters in there. So they have to cross that to get to the other side. I'm not saying this right. So when they went in and some of the monsters threatened the life of her best friend, a dormant power came out of her. It is a dormant power that is rumored that can free their war-ravaged country. And when everyone knew about this, Alina then gets whisked away to the royal court and be trained to be a Grisha, which is led by the all-powerful Darkling. I think you know what this is already. I'm still trying my best to describe books, but that's the best I can do right now. But basically, Grisha are these elite members of the royal court where they have these powers, and obviously Alina will be trained to be great at her powers. Her powers is where she summons the sun. Anyway, it's more of the chosen one trope since she is the only one that has these sun powers. I really love the Netflix adaptation more than the books. Did I butcher that? I bet you know what Shadow and Bone is about. Anyway, the next series in the Grishaverse is Six of Crows, and this is by far my favorite out of the 3. Six of Crows, we follow Kazbrecker, the criminal prodigy of Ketterdam. He was offered this deadly heist to gain a lot of money, and obviously Kaz needs to build a crew that he trusts. Basically, Kaz forms the Crows, and they go to this deadly heist. That's all I kind of want to say. The magic in the Grishaverse is actually less in this series, which I thought I wouldn't like, but then when I was reading it, all I wanted to just know is about the characters and if they are going to succeed in this heist. I actually didn't really care about the magic while I was reading it, which is very, very surprising because magic for me is one of the best things in YA fantasies. But with this one, all I wanted to know to know more about the backstories of the characters, and I guess that's how we fall in love with these characters. It's how we have a lot of time jumps where we see the past of all of these six crows, and that's how we fall in love with each of them. I freaking love this. I actually, it's weird. I read this first, then the Shadow and Bone trilogy, which a lot of people say you don't need to read Shadow and Bone before reading this, which I kinda agree, but in my case, with my stupidity and my stupid habit of skimming through words and not really reading every word, I got a little confused. I had no idea what the hell a Grisha was. I was like, what is a squalor? I don't know, so I just skipped that word until I read Shadow and Bone. I know what a squalor is. That is my fault. Again, you don't really need to know much about the Grisha, much about the magic system, because it's more about the characters and the heist that they're going through. So these are these six crows. I'm just gonna read it out. A convict with a thirst of revenge, a sharpshooter who can't walk away from a wager, a runaway with a privileged past, a spy known as the Wraith, a heartrender using her magic to survive the slums, and a thief with a gift for unlikely escapes. And I love every one of them. I swear, if you do read this, you will fall in love with them. I hope you do, because right now they are all my comfort characters, and every time I just feel sad, I just look at them and I just want to be part of their crew, to be honest. And the heist is actually high stakes as well. There's plot twists at the end, and in Crooked Kingdom, a lot of people said that you might cry. I didn't personally, but if I reread it, I think I would, because I cried in the first book of King of Scars, and I will go to that one now. So the next series of the Grishaverse is this King of Scars duology. I love it. I actually love this series. Not a lot of people love it as much as they love the others. I would kind of agree, but I really love these more than Shadow and Bone, 100%. So with King of Scars duology, you do really need to read Shadow and Bone and Six of Crows before going into this. It's actually about a story of a secondary character in Shadow and Bone, which I won't actually tell you because it will spoil a lot of things. But what I gotta say about it, King of Scars, I cried in the first 100 pages. It just crushed me. It just crushed me in a sense. Like, I cried so much. After that 100 pages, it just went from crying to action. It had a lot of political intrigue because we are following a king. But there are some moments that I kind of didn't like, more of a fan service moment, where Leigh Bardugo just inserts some characters from the previous series just to make some fans happy, and I kind of didn't appreciate that because we kind of went away from the story, but you know, it's still from the Grishaverse and I still love it. I love the whole Grishaverse as a whole, and this duology, it's still one of the best YA stories I've read, so I'm not really mad about that. It's still a 4 out of 5 stars overall for me. I freaking love the Grishaverse with all my heart. It's such a magical place. It's such a creative place. Leigh Bardugo is such a great world builder. Everything you need to know about the Grishaverse is just in those books, and I love her writing. Please check it out if you haven't, so that you can enjoy season 2 of Shadow and Bone when it comes out in Netflix. The next series I want to talk about is actually from a world, but I only have one series. It's actually The Infernal Devices by Cassandra Clare. I haven't read all of the Shadow Hunters series. I've only read half of The Mortal Instruments and The Infernal Devices. I kind of don't want to read the rest. There's just so much. But this one, I loved this book. I love this trilogy so much. It's just so great. If you want a good cry, read this trilogy. During 1873, Tessa Gray arrives in London's dark underground in search for her brother. soon she will discover that her only allies are these people who slays demons called the Shadow Hunters. And including in these Shadow Hunters is Will and Jem, and you will love them so much. Okay, sorry. Soon, they will find themselves in like sort of a drama with the Pandemonium Club, which is an organization filled with vampires, warlocks, and humans. This club really, really wants to rule the whole British Empire with their clockwork creatures. So we have Will, Jem, and Tessa, and the other Shadow Hunters to stop them. As action-packed as that sounds, the best thing about this trilogy is the romance. It's actually a love triangle done right. It's where you don't know which guy she would end up with, and you don't know yourself which guy you would want to pick for her, because both of them are just so perfect. I am judging you if you are Team Will or Team Jem, because there is not anything. No, they both are just perfect characters. The only thing that I'm very confused about is what's so special about Tessa to have these two perfect boys love her. It's a story of friendship, found family. I love this so much. It has a lot of action if you don't like the romance parts, but I promise you, you will love the romance parts. I just love this series. And let me know if Shadowhunters, the whole Shadowhunter world, is still worth it, because there are just so many and I'm just so lazy. But I'm willing to try if you let me know if it's good. But right now, the Infernal Devices is enough for me, and I freaking love it. I think when I read Clockwork Princess, the last book, I cried for at least a week. Every time I just remember what happened, I cried. I'm not even joking you can ask my family. Oh my god. The next series I want to talk about is actually a little underrated. I don't see a lot of people loving this series as much as I do, but this series is one of my favorites. It's The Young Elites by Mary Lou. You guys know I love my superheroes. They are not superheroes, but they are people with superhuman abilities. I just love this series. Plus, it's very short in comparison to others. I am in love with this trilogy forever. It's just great. Please read it. So we follow Adelina. She is a survivor of this blood fever that happened to their country. So it's a deadly illness where every person that had this illness has this weird markings that you have throughout your body. For example, Adelina actually has white hair and one of her eye is missing. So these infected people are called Malfettos, and obviously they are frowned upon because, they had a deadly illness. But there are rumors in this world that some Malfettos have gained superhuman abilities and powers and very, very mysterious, but they call themselves the Young Elites. And I love that. Oh my god. I don't wanna spoil anything, but I gotta say, the Rose Society, I have read a lot of things, but the Rose Society is still one of the darkest fantasies I've ever read. If you know what I mean, you know. But the Rose Society, there's just one scene that is very, very dark that I cannot freaking forget. This is just so cool. If you love your superheroes, if you love anti-heroes, pick this trilogy up. And our main girl Adelina has experienced some abuse. So when obviously she's one of the Young Elites. It's called Young Elites. When she gets her powers, you're gonna be afraid of her. That's all I can say, because I don't want to spoil anything. But it's such a good series, guys. Just please try it. Mary Lou, I heard Mary Lou is such a great author when it comes to these. I still have to read her Legend series, which I heard a lot of people love more than the Young Elites. But again, the Young Elites is very underrated. And I gotta say, the third and last book of the series, I cried. I don't cry that much. You can ask my friends, my book friends. They have been trying to make me cry, and I haven't. But this book, this trilogy, made me cry. So just please try it if you have time. It's such a great series. I love this. So the next series I want to talk about is An Ember in the Ashes series by Saba Tahir. If you have watched some of my videos, I think you're not surprised to see this here. I freaking love this series. I read this last year and I just finished the whole series this year in January, and I freaking love this series. Like you can see the dedication that I placed into this. I love this series so freaking much. So for the first book, we follow two perspectives. We have Elias and Elia. So we follow Elia first. Their family is just this family where they don't want to mind anyone's business. So it was such a mystery when all of a sudden these masked Empire soldiers raided their family and arrested her brother for treason. That's where we go from Elias' point of view, and Elias is actually an Empire soldier that doesn't like the system. Obviously this world has an empire, so empires are usually bad. So we have Elias, one of the soldiers that doesn't agree, just wants his freedom, and Elia just wants answers on what happened to her brother. So with that, all she can do is look for the resistance and find help. So when she does see the resistance tells her to become a slave to the Empire so that she can be a spy, and then they could give her information about her brother's whereabouts. And obviously that's where Elia and Elias meet, and I love this. And while the series progress, the point of views adds. So in the second book, we have an additional, we have Helene's point of view. Helene is another Empire soldier. She's Elias's best friend and my favorite character, by the way. I love her. Oh my god. So this series, as much as I said the Young Elites is a dark series, I gotta say An Ember in the Ashes kind of competes with that. An Ember in the Ashes is actually a dark series as well. In the first book, we already see some dark scenes that will traumatize our characters. It is a very dark YA fantasy series. It does have a lot of political intrigue and a lot of war that's gonna happen in the next books. And obviously the story will progress into something more. And I gotta say, the last book is literally, it's worth everything when you read the last book. I gotta say, in the middle of the series, it does get a little slow, but when you get to the last book and you get to the last page, it's so worth it. I think I cried like 3 times because of this book. And again, I have said that I have cried so much in this video, but again, I'm not a crier in books. I haven't cried in books in so long. I think this is the last time that I cried, and I read this last January. And in the whole year last year, I don't think I've cried in the book. Maybe I did, but I'm not sure. But I think I can only cry when it comes to series, maybe. I'm not sure. But again, this book got me very emotional, and I highly, highly recommend you reading An Ember in the Ashes. I love these, and they will always be one of my favorite series of all time. And the last series that I have here is actually sci-fi. If you have watched some of my videos in my channel, you might know what this is, because I have been talking about this series since I started my channel. So please don't be surprised. I bet you're not surprised, but I just really want to talk about Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. Right now, Skyward has 3 books and 3 novellas out. I love this series so much. Okay, so let's talk about Skyward again. Skyward, we follow Spenza. She has always wanted to be a pilot in this world. Pilots are considered heroes because they are defending their home planet from an alien species that wants to destroy them, called the Krell. However, Spence's dad has a reputation of being a coward, so that is a big thing in the academy, where pilots aren't supposed to be cowards. So she will be having a hard time to get into that academy because of her father's reputation. But that is what Skyward Book 1 is about. And the next two books is actually about something else. There's a lot of mysteries to uncover in the whole Skyward trilogy. So for the first book, we just follow Spenza and then we find her found family. We kind of get introduced to the Skyward flight and see how their friendship and family dynamic goes together, which I love. I freaking love the found family trope. It's my favorite trope in the world. But then I kind of don't want to say more because I might spoil it, but I guess I gotta say Starsight and Cytonic has a deeper world building because there are, again, a lot of mysteries in this space, in the space realm that they're in. I just love this series. If you love the found family trope and... Hi! Speaking of my family, sorry, she wanted to say hi and she just got groomed. Say hi, my baby. Anyway, if I haven't convinced you to read Skyward yet, I am very disappointed in myself, but please do. We follow, Spenza is actually a very cute, relatable character for me because her grandmother keeps on telling her stories about Old Earth, which Old Earth is our Earth. So her grandmother tells her a lot of hero stories, and Spenza is this kind of character that just wants to be a hero, and I love that about her. She keeps on like saying war cries all of a sudden in such random parts of the freaking book, but Spenza is such a great main character, and the secondary characters that we get introduced are one of my favorite characters of all time. I just love this series. Just please read the Skyward. I love it so much. Also, the novellas are just so good. I love the novellas so much as I love the books. But yeah, Brandon Sanderson is such a great author. I will be trying a lot more of his books this year, and I cannot wait to check out his adult fantasy books like Mistborn and the Stormlight Archives. I'm so excited for that. But yeah, so those are all my favorite YA fantasy / sci-fi series. I love YA fantasy. The genre is just one of my favorites. Thank you so much for watching. If you're still here, you're a freaking champ. Comment down below what your favorite YA fantasy series is. I really want to know because I want to read more, actually. If you like what you see, please do consider hitting that subscribe button and that like button and that bell notification icon so that you can be updated on when I post a new video. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I love you so much. Mwah!